Kansas, took his clothes off. Now, when the trip got back, the FBI decided to look into it and was asking people what happened, who was in the water, was there anything inappropriate that was going on. So that's what we know, and that's what many sources, including many on the record, have told us.
Here's what I don't get. Why is the FBI involved at all? Why would they look into this?
Well, what we know is they were asking people what happened. Was there anything inappropriate? I think when a member of Congress goes into a body of water in a foreign country naked, that raises some eyebrows, and that raises some questions, and that's what their line of questioning centered on.
We should say that this congressman, Republican Kevin Yoder, has apologized for what he was a spontaneous and very brief dive into the sea.
That's right. He said he was sorry for embarrassing his constituents if he had done so. He said his office has not been contacted by the FBI, but told us he does plan to run for re-election. This is not something that he at this time considers a problem for his political career, at least publicly, but he has apologized if he's embarrassed anybody in his district.
You did report that the majority leader, Eric Cantor, who was on this trip, rebuked this gathering the next morning. He was not among the people diving into the Sea of Galilee, and he dressed them down, as he put it.
In fact, he was not there at the time, many sources have told us, but the next morning after this incident happened, Mr. Cantor told the lawmakers that they were straying from the original mission of the trip, which was to meet very high-level Israeli officials, very high-level Palestinian officials, and they thought that this was inappropriate, Mr. Cantor and staff.
And did any of them say there was some religious component to why they immersed in the Sea of Galilee?
People's staff did say that to us. They made that point that this is a religiously significant place. People wanted to cool off. Someone said they wanted to get water for a baptism. So, I mean, this is not everybody wanted to be in the same position as Mr. Yoder.
And beyond the wacky factor of, hey, member of Congress going skinny dipping in the Sea of Galilee, why should we care? There was a comment posted on your website from an associate professor of public policy at George Mason, Jeremy Mayer, who says this is the biggest nothing burger I've seen Washington lunching on in quite a while.
Well, we appreciate his feedback, but I think the many people who have read the story have been off-put by it. I think when members of Congress go overseas and are representing the country, folks in Washington and across the country don't expect that they would dive into water nude. So that raises eyebrows, and I think that's what people are interested in. And this is important to remember, that this came on the heels of the very bruising debt ceiling debate, where Republicans in Congress forced the nation to cut spending in order to hike the nation's borrowing limit. And when this was going on, after that incident, markets tumbled, the nation's credit rating was slashed, and you had a member of Congress jumping into the water with no clothes on, and people going...
One member.
Right, one member, and lawmakers going out late at night after dinner and jumping into water, not a planned activity. This is not something that was on the trip's itinerary. So it's kind of what Republicans have said to us privately. It looked tone deaf, and that's what they were concerned of.
Jake Sherman with Politico, thanks for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
A queen of comedy has died. Phyllis Diller kept audiences in stitches for more than 5 decades with her wacky fashion choices and rapid-fire one-liners. Diller died today at her home in Los Angeles. Her longtime manager told the Associated Press that she died peacefully in her sleep with a smile on her face. She was 95 years old. NPR's Elizabeth Blair has this remembrance.
Phyllis Diller was glamorously outrageous, or at least the character she created was glamorously outrageous. The one who wore wigs that made her look like she had her finger in an electrical outlet, who wore gaudy, sequined outfits, and that laugh. And those nasty jokes about her dim-witted husband, Fang.
Everybody says, why do you call him Fang? He's got this one tooth that's 2 inches long. I met him at a cocktail party. I kept trying to light it. Oh, he's good for his opening beer cans.
Phyllis Diller got a late start in comedy at age 37. At the time, she was married with 5 children. Her husband was chronically unemployed. In 2006, Phyllis Diller told NPR's Lynn Mary that's why she got into comedy.
Poverty. and my husband. My husband, Sherwood Diller, insisted that I become a comic.
Did you have any idea of how to go about doing it?
Well, the thing is, I had been doing it all my life without realizing it because I'm a born comic. I was born funny. I think funny. And it was always my attitude toward life was funny.
But in the 1950s, when Phyllis Diller started being funny for a living, there were no female stand-up comedians making it big. Some critics have said Diller succeeded because a lot of her material was about mocking herself, her skills as a housewife, and her looks, making her less of a threat to male comics.
I was so ugly, my own Ouija board told me to go to hell. A peeping Tom threw up on my windowsill.
But in real life, Phyllis Diller never let her looks get in the way. In addition to stand-up, movies, and TV, Phyllis Diller was an avid painter and a classically trained pianist. She performed with dozens of symphony orchestras as the character Dame Ilya Delia. She even got some pretty good reviews. Phyllis Diller was also a gourmet cook, unlike her stage persona.
Of course, last week I had a little grease fire in the kitchen. Oh, it was in the sink, actually. But a greasy sink. I have watched bugs slide to their death.
Phyllis Diller continued working well into her 80s. She told NPR, comedy keeps people going.
Look at all the old comics who lived to be 100. I can name two. George Burns, Bob Hope, Milton Berle, 96. What do you think keeps them alive? Laughter, comedy, the light touch, seeing the funny in.
The late Phyllis Diller, comedian, pioneer, and self-described good cook. Elizabeth Blair, NPR News.
You're listening to WBEZ. It's 5:18. Coming up on the program, a look at the kind of life that Mrs. Romney has led and the kind of first lady she might become. And later, more attention to biomass as a renewable energy. WBEZ is supported by Trinity Christian College Adult Studies Program, offering a 2-year teaching certification in Palos Heights, Addison, and Chicago. Classes meet one night a week. More online at trnty.edu. And the Melville Charitable Trust on the web at melvilletrust.org. WBEZ is supported by Trader Joe's, a neighborhood grocery store committed to offering lunch and dinner options that can be made in minutes with flavors inspired from around the globe. Store locations at traderjoes.com. Let's check traffic. Here's Jill Egan.
Inbound on the Edens, delay start at Dundee. It's heaviest between Dempster and the junction. 36 Lake Cook to the Kennedy. Outbound 15, the Kennedy is just 29 out to O'Hare. 15 to the junction. 13 Express inbound 52 minutes. O'Hare into downtown. Pretty heavy the whole way. 25 from the junction in. The Eisenhower is 20 minutes out to Wolf and 35 to Thorndale. Inbound from Thorndale 50 minutes. Delays starting before York.
All right, sir. Thank you.
Silver seat, that's 9.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Have a good day.
You too.